Hello and welcome to the Family Business. I'm Joe Castiglione Jr. alongside Isaac Stoops. Football's right around the corner. I mean, that week 0 slate, it is not super beautiful, but it is going to be amazing. I mean, 10:59 p.m. Saturday night, Hawaii, Delaware State. I mean, what more could you ask for on a Saturday night? Delaware State's not even in the state yet. They've had some flight troubles. It's something to monitor, as you know. The professional gamblers who are watching this right now, I mean, we might have one in the house, but it's an exciting time. You know what else is exciting? Having Home Field Apparel as the official apparel sponsor of Soonerscoop.com. You're going to go to homefieldapparel.com, use code SCOOP, and you're going to get 15% off your first order. Right now, they're in the middle of the Can't Miss Kickoff 2024 campaign. They're releasing new products every day. I know the jacket's right around the corner. And they just actually about a week ago released the boxes. Isaac, tell us about the boxes.
Yep, so the boxes contain 3 never-before-seen items that are suitable for all weather conditions, and you can't get them anywhere else. The VIP boxes get you a hat or a ringer for members only, a koozie, and the Platinum Pass guarantees you 20% off and early access to your school's football releases throughout the whole 2024 season.
That's a heck of a deal. So if you want to take advantage of the deal, you're going to head to homefieldapparel.com, use code SCOOP for 15% off. I've taken advantage of that. I recommend that you do as well because it's just really cool logos, really good material. It's really good stuff to be rocking on Saturdays and every other day of the week.
Yeah, they definitely got something for, everybody.
A little bit of everybody, exactly. There's a lot of storylines heading into the season, most notably Jackson Arnold's first year as starting quarterback, marriage with Seth Littrell as his first OC at the University of Oklahoma. So we brought in a Sooner great quarterback, one who's played with Seth Littrell, so had experience with them, Jason White. So we had Jason White in the studio today, and we're going to take you to that interview right now. We now welcome in 2003 Heisman Trophy winner, unanimous All-American, former Oklahoma great Jason White. Jason, thanks for coming in. We have somebody in the show today.
Hey, no problem. I'm glad you guys invited me. I've actually seen a couple, so I'm excited to be here.
Big fan. How about that? Now you get to watch yourself run it back. It's like watching film back in the film room.
Yeah, I'm done with film. I don't watch too much of that.
But thanks for coming on. It's a big year. Oklahoma's entered the SEC, of course. A lot of news, new offensive coordinator, new starting quarterback, for a first full season for Jackson Arnold. So we want to know, in your career, you had multiple offensive coordinators with that new offenses. And, there's some continuity in between those. But what is it like for a young quarterback trying to get married with their offensive coordinator and learn the system, but also trying to learn what it means to be a quarterback?
I think a lot of it determines on the quarterback. Is he a film guy? Is he a coach on the field, or is he just like an amazing athlete? And so I feel like with Jackson Arnold, he is a guy that is a classroom study film kind of guy, but also he's a good athlete on the field. So I feel like it's going to take him less time just because of that, because he's going to take the time to really study the offense, stay in the film room. Just like in my career, I didn't really learn how to study film until I got hurt the second time, because it was like, okay, I can't rely on my legs anymore. I got to figure something out. And so that's when I started really watching film. And I feel like Jackson Arnold has already got that. And even with his last year, the bowl game, I feel like that was a great experience for him. I mean, even though it wasn't a great outcome, that's going to springboard him ahead this year.
No, it's exciting. And so Jackson's first year, what are you most excited to see as he takes the reins of QB1 for Oklahoma?
I just think the versatility that he has, just being able to throw and run, he's got tons of weapons around him. And so really just watching him develop, even from just one game last year to this year is going to make a big difference. And, he's been in the offense longer. He's got more time with the guys. So he's going to have better continuity and stuff like that. So I'm really excited just to see him grow this year, and especially going into a new conference where, it's heavy run, or they say it's heavy run, but, I think that he can come in, or our offense can come in and really change the view of that.
Yeah, and you, our new OC, Seth Littrell, it's kind of nice we kept it in-house with the hiring him and Joe John. But what do you remember about Seth? I know you played with him, and kind of give us a little bit on that, and then your thoughts of him being, OU's new OC. Excuse me.
Yeah, so Seth, I played with him, I think 1 year. But man, you couldn't find a more hard-nosed kind of guy. And as you guys know, a lot of times you favor your leader. And so if he's a hard-nosed kind of guy, that's what a lot of his players are going to be the same way. So with him being that way, and then also seeing what he did with Mason Fine down at North Texas. Mason Fine's an Oklahoma boy. And so, seeing what he did with him in North Texas, that's exciting in itself. He set several records down there. But, now that Seth, he's got more weapons here, it's just going to be exciting to see. And to know his background, and he is – a hard-nosed guy, football player, wrestler. I'm pretty sure he's a state champion wrestler if I remember right. But, that's the mentality that you're going to need, especially going into this new conference.
Yeah. Sooner Scoop's own George Story is actually working on a story with Seth Littrell right now. And that's kind of the vibe. He's spoken with a few former players, few former coaches that's coached with him. It's just a good old Oklahoma country boy. And I think something about the fan base is going to gravitate to that a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. You can't get more Oklahoma than Seth Littrell. I mean, he's just a hard-nosed guy that has always worked extremely hard. And I think that's what you want. You want your coach and his players to be just like that. And so I think if you get that, I mean, they're going to have a lot of success.
He's had a lot of course, career experience, being offensive coordinator, being a head coach in North Texas. But do you think there is actually any advantage for first year of Jackson Arnold with first year of Seth Littrell as they kind of feel each other out going into it?
Absolutely. I don't think Seth's going to be stuck in his ways. And the same with Jackson. He's got to develop into, exactly what Seth. So I think they have an advantage by they're growing together. And so being that it's his first full year, and Jackson's first full year, they're going to have speed bumps in the road and things like that, but they're going to be growing together, and I really feel like they'll be on the same page because of that.
Yeah, and obviously, they're going to experience some growing pains, but you get to go through those together, the highs and the lows. But we've been talking about, or a lot of people have been talking about them going up against Coach Venables' defense every day in practice. That's something you had the pleasure of doing. So Speak on that for us. I know, how competitive did it get? And
I mean, I'll never forget. I always tell people, I was the best scout team quarterback in 2000 when we won the national championship because that's what I was on the scout team, and I ran the scout team. But to go against, those guys every day in practice was terrible. I mean, they flew all over the field. They were really good at disguising coverages. But, as I got started playing, to be able, I don't know if y'all still did this, or if they still do it now, but we always had a 10-play blitz period to where first string got 6 plays and second string got 4 plays. But those were times that you really got to feel how good our defense was. Mm-hmm. And it's just because it was full go. It was obviously you couldn't hit the quarterback, but luckily that was the case. But it was full go. So you got to experience what other teams were experiencing during that period. And I'll tell you, I mean, we had some of the best defenses in the country, 2003 and 2004. And so to get that practice, it made us better.
Yeah, I mean, I think now, I don't know, sometimes they have blitz period. I think they have inside run for sure where it gets, you're in the trenches for sure. You can hear the pads popping.
Yes. If you're on the scout team, I was a scout team player. Pretty easy to guess on that one. But I was a scout team player, and the defenses were maybe not quite to that level, when I was on the team. But it's tough. And you do kind of feel that you're like, these guys are big, they're fast, they're strong. And then you line up and go against them. And so you do kind of get that feel. But, they're like Isaac talked about, there's been a lot of talk about, Jackson, this is first fall camp as a QB1. And so there has maybe been some up and downs. And that's how it is with fall camp in general. You can be a Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, Baker's last year, I remember him struggling in fall camp, or I remember Kyler Murray struggling in fall camp. That's just kind of the nature to it. So in fall camp, how much can you take out of fall camp, as a player, or is more as you just go in every day with a fresh mindset?
Yeah, man, fall camp's tough. It really is, especially back when I was playing. We still had full 2-a-days every day.
Did you have 3-a-days?
Yeah, well,
yes,
in a way.
Wink.
Yeah. But you go through those periods of you might just have a bad day, but you're going through 2 practices that day, and so it seems like you've had a bad week. And so, and it's tough to stay up every single practice. I know we all strive to do that, but it's still tough. You're going to make bad throws. You're going to make bad decisions. And that's the whole reason you practice, is to learn those things, and you learn from those bad decisions. So I never really take too much out of the camp. I do think you can separate, a starter from a non-starter in camp. But at the same time, if you're going with somebody, he's getting the reps, everyone's going to have a bad throw every now and then, or they're going to make a bad decision, every now and then. So I think it's just more about giving that person the confidence to know, like, hey, no matter what, we're going to go with you. I mean, that was kind of like with me, my last, in the 2003 season, Coach Long actually came on my birthday in 2003, and he told me at that time, because it was still up in the air, it was Brent Rawls, Paul Thompson, myself, it was still up in the air who the quarterback was going to be. And Coach Long came to me and said, hey, you're our guy this year. We're going to announce it today. You're the starter. And that changed my whole mindset. And so going into fall camp, that it took the pressure off, and I was able to perform better because of that. So, like I said, I don't put too much on fall camp because a lot can change. And plus, you're not going nonstop. You're not having hours of meetings, and I mean, you guys know how it is. It's a lot.
That's quite the birthday gift too. It's probably got to rank pretty high on birthday gifts.
It absolutely does, because when he first came and he told me, happy birthday first, and then after that is when and I was like, is this a joke? Because I'm coming off 2 major knee surgeries. Really didn't think I was going to get a chance, but the fact that Coach Stoops and Coach Long believed that I could do it, that changed everything for me.
Yes. As long as your birthday isn't on April 1st, then I think it wasn't a joke. But
no.
you kind of talked about like playing practice squad, and in today's day and age with the transfer portal and with everything, a lot of guys don't end up sticking it out through 3-a-days or workouts with Schmitty, or not being elected to be the guy that year. So kind of talk about how important it is to kind of build that consistency and that camaraderie that you got to build in those however many years with your guys.
So I'll be just very transparent here. It crossed my mind to transfer when they announced Nate Heupel to be the starter in 2001. They announced him to be the starter. Like, I immediately was like, I'm better than this dude. Like, my stats are better. I don't understand why I'm not the guy. Mm-hmm. And so I really thought about it, and I'll never forget, Coach Long caught me after or before practice, 2-a-day practice. It was the morning session is when they announced it. The afternoon practice, he was standing out in the hall waiting on me, and he brought me in, and he's like, hey, I'm just going to give you the positives of transferring and the negatives. And at the end of the day, I've always wanted to be a Sooner, and I wasn't going to let that hinder me. I knew I could work my way in there. So I think things have changed. I think there are times that a transfer is good, for certain people. But I think also we're letting these guys transfer just because they're not happy with they're not getting playing time. Whatever happened to outwork the next guy, and that's kind of gone. So we didn't see too many transfers when I was in my 6 years at OU. There wasn't a whole lot of transfers, but we had a great team chemistry. We had great coaches, made it fun, and so that was a big deal. I mean, I can't imagine if we had the transfer portal back then, if that would have changed, and it possibly would have. But I'm not a big fan of it. I think there needs to be more rules to it, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Becoming a Sooner, I mean, it's talked about a lot. You're recruiting. You were the first recruit that Coach Stoops went and visited.
Yeah.
And were you leaning towards Miami, or were you committed to Miami, or?
Hey, my first recruiting trip. Actually, the first time I was on an airplane was to Miami.
And not Miami, Oklahoma, Miami.
Yeah. So, I was just floored. My host was Adrian James. We spent time on South Beach. I was all in. I loved their offense. I had a chance to play as soon as I got there because they didn't have a quarterback at that time. And so I would have had a chance to play as a freshman. So all these things were lining up in my favor. And I did tell Coach Davis, Butch Davis at the time, I just said, hey, this is where I want to be. Like, I love it here. And that's mainly because OU was not recruiting me at that time. And so as soon as Coach Stoops got the job, I'll never forget, I got a phone call, or he called and left a message, and my mom always wrote down the coaches' names and, when they called. And so when I got home that day, she was really excited, and she was like, "Hey, a new coach called." And I'm like, "Who?" Because it was kind of late in the year. It was in January.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, "Who?" And she's like, "Oh, Coach Stoops from OU." And I was like, "Just saw that on TV. They announced him." So I called him back right away, and he said, "Hey, I know you're going to Miami, but I would just like to come talk to you." And I was like, "Okay, well, when can you come?" And he said, "How far is Tuttle from Norman?" And at that time, they didn't have the turnpike, so it was 45 minutes. I said, "It's about 45 minutes." And he said, "Well, I can be there in 45 minutes. And I said, "Well, let me ask my mom," because she was always like, she wanted the house like spotless, And so I said, "Mom, is it all right if Coach Stoops comes?" And the house was not spotless at the time. And so, but she immediately said yes, because she didn't want me to leave the state. And so she immediately said yes. But I'll never forget him walking in the door, still wearing the same suit he was on TV. It looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days. And I believed every word that man said. And it was like,
what was that message?
It was more about what he was going to do to turn Oklahoma back into the powerhouse that it's been in the past. And so, he even talked about, like, we will win a national championship. We will have Heisman Trophy winners. Like, everything he said actually came to light. The first year was kind of rough. We thrived in the Independence Bowl.
Yeah.
Shout out Shreveport.
Yeah, exactly. But after that, it got rolling, and so it's probably the best change of mind that I've had, because all he was asking is, at least come visit the campus. I had one visit left, and I said, "You know what? I just wanted to go just because I wanted to see it."
Yeah.
And I didn't get that opportunity before. So, but after that trip, I came home. I had basketball practice that Sunday, and went to practice. I came home. I was super tired, so I took a nap. And when I woke up, I was like, "I'm going to OU." Like, I just changed my mind right then. I walked outside. My mom and dad were sitting on the front porch, drinking tea and smoking a cigarette. And have you ever seen those movies to where, like, they're smoking cigarettes and it, like, hangs off their lip, but it's not in their mouth?
Oh, yeah.
And so as soon as I walked out, I stuck my head out the door and I said, "Hey, I changed my mind. I'm going to go to OU." And both cigarettes are just hanging off their lip. And so my dad said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Absolutely. I'm done with this. I'm calling the coaches right now and let them know. And then I'm going to call Coach Stoops and let him know." And that's what I did.
What do you remember about when you got there, about my dad, like the culture that he implemented, and obviously following up on his word, because it's kind of what Coach Venables has been doing here the past couple of years.
Right. Yeah. The first. So I came. It would have been his first summer here. So right after my senior year, it was his first summer here. It was the first summer with Smitty, and so what I liked about what Coach Stoops was doing is he wasn't caving to the guys, complaining, or he knew what it took, and he knew that he trusted Smitty, that he was doing the right thing, because we had several guys quit that summer.
Yeah.
I mean, guys walking out of workouts left and right, and if you wanted to come back and get back in the workout, like, you had to pay the price. And so a lot of guys just quit because of that. But I loved that he stuck to his guns on what he was trying to develop here.
Mm-hmm.
And it paid off in the end, because it kind of became a no-nonsense. I mean, you guys been through it too, but summer workouts and winter workouts, I don't think people realize how bad they really are, especially back then.
There was no limits.
No, there was nothing.
Winter's pretty rough. I don't think it gets enough credit.
No, the stations?
Winter is, I think stations are actually probably the physically hardest thing, but winter is hard because the season's so far away. It's dark. It's cold. You don't want to be thinking about it. It's just like
early in the
harder.
morning.
Summer's a little bit physically harder, but when you have like the the horizon of
The
season coming
daylight,
there.
it's 80 degrees out. Yeah, not
It's a little bit
freezing.
better.
Yeah, and you can hit the pool up after.
Yeah,
Exactly. Get a little tan.
Yeah.
figure something out.
Got lake on the weekends still.
Yeah. Wintertime was hard, and I remember my first winter here. I went through the summer, and after the second summer practice, so they were redoing the locker room at that time, and after the second summer practice, it was a Friday. I laid in the shower for like an hour by myself, and I'll never forget. I called my dad. I'm like, I don't know if I can. I don't think this is for me, And he's like, well, you can come pour concrete with me, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it one more shot. But I'll never forget my first winter. The first time we did stations, I was wondering, why do you guys got trash cans at every station? And
it's not for water cups.
It sure wasn't. No, and that's what I soon figured out. Like, those were there because people are going to throw up no matter what.
Paint a little picture. So stations are like a winter workout where each coach has a station. They have an individual exercise, and the exercise is pretty much just to get you tired. Like it's some change of direction, some roll on the ground, do some flips, sprints, sleds, everything. It's
bells, everything. Yeah,
Oh.
they had all the gadgets out there.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely hated it.
It's like the first time too. Like you feel the pressure of all the coaches. Like you're trying to impress them, and it's terrible.
Because you're trying to impress each coach, and you might not have dealt with them much before because it's not just your position coach now. Like it's every single coach has a station.
Yep.
A guy who was physically very impressive, Adrian Peterson. Did you know about him before he stepped on campus? Did you have any idea of what Oklahoma was getting themselves into?
No clue. I knew we had got a 5 because we were at the LSU game. We were fixing to go to the game when he announced he was coming to OU, and I remember Coach Gundy going crazy, and so I was like, well, this guy must be a big deal. But his first day on campus, he walks in. We're running trippers. We called them trippers. So it was 6 down and backs, 100-yard down and backs. And so he walks in, and we're all standing over there fixing to start running, and we all look at him like, who's this JUCO transfer? Because this dude is a man. Like, he walks in, and he's wearing, like, just sliders and a tank top, and we're like, that dude just like a full-grown man. So we're definitely thinking he's a transfer from or something. Well, he shows up, and we start our trippers, and of course, he's out to impress.
Of course.
Yeah. And I'll never forget the first tripper. I still had a down and back and down when he finished. And we were all of us older guys were like, yeah, he just hurt himself, because the very next we ran one more tripper, and again he finished pretty quick, but we ran 4 of them. The third tripper, he fell out. Like he couldn't go anymore. His legs were jello, and he just fell out. So it was kind of funny to see that he was there to, he really impressed everybody the first 2, and then he just fell out. And after walking to the locker room, we were like, hey man, you got to pace yourself. 1, you're making us look bad.
Exactly.
But 2, you're going to kill yourself. So, but man, great guy. I mean, you wouldn't find a harder worker around. And so just to see that and see how he worked in the weight room, I always knew that even before he stepped on the field, like, he's going to be good. And just because of his work ethic, and he was a team guy too. He wasn't the guy that just all about me. And so that's what I've always appreciated about Adrian. And it was more about the team and what was best for the team. And the first year was rough because he's an incoming freshman, and when he got into play, it was like I had to tell him to play every time, like not actually tell him to play, but tell him where to go on the play. And so, but it was worth it, man. I mean, it really was. He took a lot of pressure off in 2004 of me, because everyone started focusing on him, and it opened up the passing lanes like crazy.
Yeah.
And so I've always appreciated him for that.
One of my dad's best friends from Youngstown used to give my dad crap for his freshman year when he didn't start him, obviously, initially. He was like, you're the only one in college football with a Ferrari, and you keep it locked up in the barn.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think that the whole team thought the same thing, because seeing him in 2-a-days that year was like, this dude's legit. And he didn't start the first couple games. I don't know, maybe the fourth game he finally got to start.
He had a breakout game, I think, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think Bowling Green is who it was when he really just went off. So, but yeah, like I said, he made my job so much easier, and we were able to do so much more because of him.
Yeah. How do you obviously Oklahoma now is considered as, QBU, and how do you feel kind of being the first quarterback to win the Heisman here and then being followed by Sam, Kyler, Baker, and kind of trailblazing, the way?
I don't ever take credit for that. I always give the credit to Hype. Josh Heupel, when I got here, it was his first year here as well. He was a transfer, so it was his first year. But I always noticed, like, he would always go do these extra workouts after our workouts. And I asked him one day, like, hey, what are you doing with all this? And he's like, it's all footwork drills and stuff like that. And I said, do you mind if I join you? And he's like, well, I'll make you a deal. If you join me, like, the first time you miss, that's it. Don't come back. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. I mean, you're not a coach, but okay. So I ended up joining him, and so I started doing that, and it just kind of snowballed from there, because after that, like, Paul Thompson started joining me, mm-hmm. and then after that, Sam Bradford was joining Paul Thompson. So it just kind of snowballed that everyone – I don't know if they still do it or not, but, that was just Josh kind of started it for everybody. Started that work ethic in that quarterback room, and then spending the time in the film room. Like, Josh spent so much time in the film room of studying, and he actually helped me, like, hey, this is what you need to look for when you're studying. But just to be a part of that group of quarterbacks that have came through, it's truly an honor. I mean, every one of them have a different, trait that they just stand out for. And so, but to be the first Heisman Trophy winner as a quarterback at OU, that means a lot, because OU's always had, like, outstanding running backs. Mm-hmm. So to be the first quarterback, that that's truly special.
They still do some of that footwork and extra stuff. They call them Scotty's extras now. And so the quarterbacks would always have to, we got to go hit Scotty's.
Yeah.
A lot of rice bucket, footwork, balance.
That's all we did. Yeah, yes. That's all we did.
Exactly. So it's cool to see that they still do that. Scotty's extras. Yeah. I mean, I know always they would go over and do that. Baker, Kyler, all the other quarterbacks, but they still do.
That's awesome.
Josh Heupel, what do you think about how it ended up, with Coach Heupel? Of course, won a national championship, then was a, decorated coach here, and then kind of fell out, until his firing. But what did you think about how that ended, and then how cool is it to see now that his success?
I think that what you just wrapped it up with right there is a true testament of Josh. Is, not necessarily he didn't quite make it here, for different reasons, and it worked out for him to be, a head coach at a great school and have great success there. So, Josh, I always felt like you got the best from Josh no matter what he was doing, whether he was a quarterback or he was actually in 2003, he was like a GA. And so it was really cool to have a guy like that to come to the sideline after a series and him, like, tell you, like, hey, this, and this. So I took advantage of that because he was so smart. He literally was a coach on the field. And so to be able to have that, it was amazing. And to see the success that he's had, I never doubted that he wouldn't have success. But, the way that he had to leave OU, it was an unfortunate situation. But at the same time, it's opened a lot of doors for him, and he got a great experience from being here. Without this experience, who knows if he would ever got that opportunity.
Yeah, it's going to be cool seeing him come home, too. Hopefully the fans, welcome him with open arms. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Put away his coaching stuff. He's the last quarterback, to win a national championship. That's a pretty big deal.
Okay. It's going to be cool, too, because first SEC game, and then already just the ramifications of Oklahoma versus Tennessee. I know people were talking about earlier. It's going to be an absolute massive game in Norman, so they just got to add that wrinkle.
Yeah, no, it'll be great. I think it'll be up there with the Texas game, especially just because of the relationship there with Josh and the university. It's
going to be a true, like, measuring stick, too, for the rest of the year. I really think after they get past that out of conference, it's like, all right, let's see what we're going to look like this year.
Yep.
No doubt.
And then you've had a absolute decorated, life after football. I did have to, I was reading your Wikipedia page a little bit. You were actually a part owner of the Bricktown Brawlers for a year. Did you ever want to lace them up again, just for like one indoor football game, just sling the rock a little bit?
No, absolutely not. They tried to get me to come out and practice a couple times, but I wasn't having it. I don't think I wouldn't last very long, basically. So,
one series, just throw just like a quick slant.
It's going to have to be quick. I can promise you that, because I'm not moving. But yeah, it was cool to be a part of that. It was cool to me because it was still giving guys a chance to play a game they loved. And you'd be surprised some of those guys that are still playing, their stories behind why they quit playing in the first place, maybe college or even high school. A lot of it wasn't because they wasn't good enough. It was because they had unfortunate situations in their life happen. And so this was a kind of a second chance for them to go out and do something. So that was really cool to get to know some of those guys on that level.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Thought that was cool. Yeah. I read that too. I was like, I didn't know that. I kind of remember the Bricktown Brawlers. So, and the Oklahoma Yard Dogs. That was another one too as well. Yep. And then, of course, now you kind of become synonymous, with Air Comfort Solutions. What has it been like starting with them? I mean, you starting with them and then building that throughout.
Yeah, it's been an experience for sure. But I always tell everybody this. Like I approached running Air Comfort a lot like a football team, because that's exactly what it is. Just different. You're obviously not playing football, but you have the same concept of like the camaraderie in the locker room. The teamwork, and so just to be able to start back in, I think it was 2007, and watch it grow. Because when I started, I think they were $6 million company, and just to watch it grow over the years has been awesome. There's been a lot of changes in those years, so and to be able to be a part of that and be able to manage that, it's been a great experience. But you can relate so much to football in your work. It doesn't just have to be heat and air. It could be anything. But I can relate so much to that, and I think that's one of the reasons it's been successful. And then obviously I've had some great mentors that have been great business guys, and so to have those in your back pocket, it's always helpful.
How did it start? What was the starting point?
So I got a call from a radio station. They were actually looking for a spokesperson just to do a 3-month radio push, and it was during football season. And so I was like, well, the guy called and I said, well, who is it? And he said, well, it's Air Comfort Solutions. I said, well, all right, let me do some checking. I wanted to see who I was about to get in bed with. And so I did some checking. It took me like a week or so. Well, the owner was very impatient. And so he was calling every day like, hey, where are you at? This and that. And then finally he said, what else do I need to do? And he goes, how about I'll take you to Riverwind and we'll play blackjack all on me. And I was like, you know what? I'm in. So that's how it started, and it went from a 3-month contract, and that little push they did, it did really well. And so after that contract was up, he said, what do you think about doing a year and doing some more, maybe some TV and some print stuff? And then after that year, it turned into, why don't you start coming into the office? And I was coming in 2 days a week. And then that went on for a couple years, and then I think in 2010, I started full time, and so that's when now it's been full time ever since.
Yeah. What are you up to? Other than that, I've seen you at the lake some. I don't know if you like the golf. What else does your after football life entail?
So I got kids. They're older, so I got a couple that are in football right now. Tannen's a senior, and then my stepson Josh, he's a junior. And then my daughter, she's out of the house, she's on her own. But then I have a stepdaughter who's also a senior. So still raising kids. This is 2 of their last. They'll be seniors. So very short time left. But mainly, I love the lake. I'm there just about every weekend. And but other than that, just I love cars. I love old cars, any kind of cars. So that's kind of my hobby in the winter, just to get through to make it to the next lake season. But, it's been great. It's been a great experience. And, and raising the kids have been amazing because times have changed so much since, we were talking about it earlier, camera phones and all that stuff. It's changed so much. So I feel sorry for the kids nowadays, actually, because there's so much that they can get in trouble for, or it's easier to get caught or whatever. But other than that, just work. And then, like I said, the lake, which that. So, but it's been great.
Y'all need to drop a pin, and I'll come over at Eufaula. But you and Big Joe also can bond over cars. He's a big car guy. So
Yes, I know that.
Yeah. He's a big car guy. In a past life, he had like 6 classic cars before he got married.
Okay.
My mom made him sell a couple. Yeah. Jason, thanks for coming on today. We appreciate you coming in studio too. It's really great just to have somebody right here to talk to.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for having me, and you guys keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
For everybody watching, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us help you. And then we'll catch you next week with another edition of The Family Business. Remember to keep it in the family.